Welcome to this subunit on in situ conservation of plant genetic resources. This subunit is part of Unit 1.1 Plant Genetic Resources within Module M1 Biodiversity and Agro-Resources. This is a session on in situ conservation of plant genetic resources. In addition to this video, this subunit includes a link to a video on conservation of crop wild relatives in Africa. At the end of this course, you will be able to distinguish between in situ and on-farm conservation, to recognize the differences between ex situ and in situ conservation, and to identify the advantages and disadvantages of in situ and on-farm conservation. The in situ conservation of germplasm consists in the on-site conservation of germplasm of natural populations in its native area. It is particularly appropriate for crop wild relatives, forest trees, and fodder species. Normally, this type of in situ conservation is linked to protected areas. A different type of conservation is the so-called on-farm conservation, which consists in the conservation of germplasm in farmers' fields. This means that the traditional varieties are conserved by farmers. However, due to the cost, this is often possible only with traditional varieties with local demand. Otherwise, it requires expensive subsidies to compensate farmers. In the figure, we can see an integrated design for multi-geographical level for in situ conservation and on-farm management, in which from individual localities where wild relatives and land races occur, several individual sites for protection are designed, which are then integrated in a national network, which is also integrated in a regional network, and finally in a global network of in situ and on-farm conservation sites. The basic differences between ex situ and in situ conservation are the following. In ex situ conservation, this takes place outside of the natural habitat, while in the in situ conservation it takes place in the natural habitat. The sampling strategies for ex situ conservation consist in sampling and storage of collected material, while in situ conservation consists of designation, management, and monitoring of germplasm in their habitat. Also, ex situ conservation is genetically static, as the materials conserved do not evolve for continuous adaptation to its natural environment, while in situ conservation the populations evolved to adapt to changing conditions. Finally, ex situ conservation strategies can conserve the germplasm for long term, often decades, while in situ conservation requires continuous conservation and maintenance of populations. The methods for conservation in situ and on-farm consist of protected areas, on-farm conservation methods, and home gardens. The main advantages of in situ and on-farm conservation are: the diversity of the crops continues evolving and adapting to changing conditions. It supports the maintenance of traditional knowledge. In some cases, an economic benefit can be obtained. However, in situ and on-farm conservation also have some disadvantages, like the risk of losing the materials due to natural or artificial disasters in the conservation sites, abandonment of the conservation in the on-farm case, because modern varieties may be more profitable for farmers. The cost of maintenance is very high, and unless subsidies are provided, is difficult to maintain, and the access to diversity by other stakeholders may be more difficult than in ex situ conditions, as the materials may not be in an accessible repository. The most important messages of this subunit are: first, in situ conservation is the on-site conservation of germplasm. Second, on-farm conservation is conserving the germplasm in farmers' fields. Third, there are many differences between in situ and ex situ conservation systems. Fourth, in situ conservation is dynamic, while ex situ is static. Fifth, in situ and on-farm conservation requires protected areas and farmers growing land races. And sixth, in situ conservation allows continuous evolution of the crops and their wild relatives, but is more expensive. Many thanks for your attention.